next reader tonight is Ying-Tai Chang. Ying-Tai Chang earned her PhD in literature from the National Taiwan University and holds the position of Distinguished Professor at the National Taiwan University of Science and Technology in Taipei. She is a highly regarded academic, but has achieved even greater renown as a writer. Her works include the novels The Bear Whispers to Me, The Zither Player from the Lost Kingdom, The Rose with a Thousand Faces, and To All the Boys We Loved Before, and the short story collections My Tibetan Love, The Floating Nest, and The Unstoppable Spring. A new English language translation of The Bear Whispers to Me will be published by the UK publishing press Ballister Press in April of this year. Ying-Tai shines today as one of Taiwan's leading literary lights, a storyteller of unique and remarkable imagination. It is a talent that has earned numerous national awards, including the China Times First Prize for Fiction and Prose and the United Daily Press Prize for Fiction, the Taipei International Book Fair Prize for Novel of the Year, and the Award for Literary Writing from the Taiwan Ministry of Education. She was also a 7-time winner of the Central Daily News Prize and a finalist for the 2 million yuan Award for Fiction, one of the largest monetary awards in Asian literature. Please welcome Ying-Tai Chang.
大家好，我是张盈凯，很高兴在这个美丽的夜晚和大家相聚。Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, other guests, and thank you all for coming to support the festival and to hear me read. Since discovering the world of Lennox Robinson a few years ago, I have become an ardent admirer. In my university in Taipei, I teach a course on Western literature and devote part of the year's first semester to his short stories. He was an active and perceptive writer, one who devised a prominent place in any discussion about the history of Irish literature. His career as a playwright and his position with the Van Abbey Theatre has been well documented, but the quality of his writing style and the scope and diversity of his subject matter are all worthy of particular attention. Politics, religion, class divide, and family strife are all explored in a sure, often comedic but always subtle way. And few writers of his era succeeded in bringing 20th century Ireland so readily to life. So, to be standing in this beautiful church in the village where Lennox Robinson was born is a great honor. I think it is wonderful that he's been remembered with this festival. I have thoroughly enjoyed the event so far, and I would like to express my thanks to the festival committee for inviting me to participate, and to the people of Douglas for making me feel so welcome. I also wish to acknowledge and thank the Taiwan government for funding my attendance at this festival, and to Ambassador Simon Du, his wife Tracy, and the embassy's deputy director Shelley Lin for traveling down from Dublin to be here. This is not just an honor for me, but for Taiwan. I feel proud and happy to receive this. Tonight, I'm going to read a short excerpt from my novel, The Bear Whispers to Me, which has just been published in an English translation by Ballister Press. It tells a story of a young Taiwanese Aboriginal boy and a strange man bear that he rescued from the control of an evil street performer. He nurses the bear back to health, finding a cave in which to live and teach him to survive in the wild. This is a kind of adult fairy tale, a novel of love, friendship, loyalty, magic, heritage, and a pure and everlasting bond that exists between man and nature. I'll try what fashioned by the celestial spirit from the leaf of every tree. At the time Father wrote this, he was carefully recording everything that had happened in the mountains. He didn't tell me what he was doing. It was like he was keeping secrets. I only started finding out Father's secrets the year I turned 12. When I came across a proverb in a scrapbook that Father had studied when he was a 10-year-old child. Father never ever told me story or brought me children's storybook. I had only a single pastime to relieve the loneliness of my childhood, to take Father's key and open up all of his drawers, feeling a bit like a thief, or maybe like Zeus. I found a scrapbook in one of the drawers. It was wrapped in brown paper and placed under a rusty metal box. In the box, Father had stored a pair of delicate bird nests. Holding up the lid, I saw that the interior seemed to be made of dry bamboo leaves and silver grass with very fine down clay in the cracks. A few filaments of his down had been placed between two of the pages of the scrapbook for so long they had become strapped to one of the pages. On the opposite page was a drawing of a little bird. I would stare at this little bird, wondering if it was the one to which the down belonged. I just have to find out what kind of bird this is, I often thought. Later on, I made myself a drawer with a lock and key. That I too had a secret to keep, that I finally had my own story to tell. But the first story I corrected came from Father. The proverb in the scrapbook seemed exotic. When the pine needles fall in the forest, the eagle sees it, the deer hears it, and the bear smells it. He must have been about 10 years old when he wrote this proverb. I don't know why he copied out this particular proverb, or why he failed to finish filling scrapbook, except for bits of flower and little drawing of birds and insects. It had nothing much to tell me. For some reason, he copied this proverb out and left the rest of the scrapbook mostly blank. It wasn't until I found the key to a certain cabinet, which to me at the time seemed like a veritable treasure chest, that I was able to continue my soothing career. Inside the cabinet, I found an album. This album contained no foreign proverb to arouse my curiosity, only a series of crayon drawing with explanatory captions. It was an album, but it was also like a diary. The caption illustrations were like diary entries. Father dated each of the entries and based on the date. He must have been 12 years old when he completed his diary of an album. This is the caption for the first picture in the album. I'll try what fashioned by the celestial spirit from the leaf of every tree. After we die, our spirit fly, guided by the light of the moon up to the heights of peak. The picture itself is of a darkening forest with the moon and a constellation of stars shining brilliantly overhead. There is a clearing in the forest, and a cabin with a lattice window in the clearing. There is no sense of wind, but somehow, when I gazed at the picture as a 12-year-old child, it seemed to come alive. The leaves would start falling from the trees and twirling on the breeze. I could make out the veins in the leaves, which would transform into twinkling musical notes as they floated down through the moonlight and starlight towards the cabin. Through the lattice window, I could make out another volume, a children's storybook set upon a table, open to their very first page. Then, in a close-up, I would see a proverb from Father's scrapbook. When a pine needle falls in the forest, the eagle sees it, The deer hears it, and bear smells it. A page will turn, I will see a pine tree and pine needle hanging in midair beneath a branch. I will stare and stare, and the page of the storybook would turn and turn, showing me an eagle, eyes wide open, perched on a branch, a deer with its ear cupped, and a bear poking its head out of a cave. The second picture in Father's album adopts a different perspective. It lets you see the world from inside the cabin. The storybook is still on the table, but now you see a gigantic scarab beetle shedding a tabletop. It must be a pet scarab because it is leashed. There's a string tying a loop around its neck. The scarab is a shining blue and black, and its head is buried on a rotten beach. The other hand of the string is held by a boy. It must be father, who would have to hold his pet scarab back when it would attempt to crawl out through an opening in the lattice window. Through the window, a faint breeze would blow its beads of flashy delightful fluff. The boy would put his mouth near, and the spore would scatter, some floating back up to become twinkling stars in the nighttime sky, others floating toward the march and turn into glowworm. Two of the glowworm would drift into a mountain cave, looking just like a pair of eyes, round and bright, staring right at you, like insomniac eyes, like silent deathly spirit. Here, Father wrote a second caption. In the whole wide world, apart from the pair of eyes growing in the mountain cave, I have no one to watch over me. But it seems there are many things to listen to in Father's word. He recorded many songs in the album he buried in the ground. One is a light salty song, grow, grow, grow. Another is a quick song produced in the depth of the belly. Woo, 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 woo. It's also a whistling song, shoo, shoo, shoo. There's even a song in Father's album. When I first saw the lyrics to this ancient tribal song, I tried to read them but find them unintelligible. Lasi sui lumalali lumalali sa iva visa imi lavusa bulala bulalai la lumalumai la lumalumai lai mi lulai lai ampu lai lai tai yeah. To you too, it may seem that these lines are simply gobbledygook, but I promise you they are the lyrics of a sacred song, writing in a language that people once used to share their memory, and that people still use when they talk in their dreams. It might seem to you that the pictures in the album too are made up silly tribal fantasy. Its history is lost, unrecorded, untraceable. It's bad for this album. There's no proof, not even any evidence. There's really very little to go on. But together, the picture in the album tell a coherent story, a story of a boy and a bear. And this story really happened. You must believe me, Father would not lie. Father's album brings you to a roadside field of ripe beans. It matches white and purple flowers. You can almost see them nodding in the breeze. You smell sweet mountain berry and the odor of dirt moistened by dew and start walking along the path. You walk and walk until the path crosses a steep slope. It is a high summer. Spring water trickles down the slope. A cloud of butterflies flutter over the dream. Several hundred pair of fanny wings paint a swath of brilliant color in mid-air. falls, one road leading down into a narrow gully, dark and cool, haunted by ladybird, scarab beetles, crickets, grasshoppers, and praying mantis. Instead of going down the gully, you keep going straight until the path finally ends at primary forest. In the forest, there is a thick carpet of falling leaves, through which simiseed and centipede crawl. You choose a spot and use a foot to brush away the layer of leaves, revealing dead beetles and rhinoceros beetles creeping around on the moist soil. Clearing away the soil, you uncover a colony of hister beetles gnawing on the putrid corpse of a rat. You keep going through the forest until you come to a clearing at the foot of another slope. A clearing looks somehow familiar. You see a cabin, my father's cabin. In front of the window of the cabin, a couple of leaves twirl in mid-air. Looking more closely, you see a funny bee transporting the leaves. A leaf disappears into the bamboo pole father used to dry his clothes. You split the bamboo and find hidden inside what look like swaddling clothes. Actually, it's their egg, laid in leaves that have been shaped into cones. Some grafts have already hatched from the egg in the cones, and some of the grafts are already mature. They are getting ready to pupate. After dark, the mist has branched the hills, extending up from the cabin for miles. All the way to the crest of the mountain is a belt of pines, a sea of green. Into the sea, a gas hole suddenly dives. When it buttons out and raises again, there is a large lizard squirming in its clothes. Choo! Choo choo choo! Is its triumphant call. A sound clearly indicated in speech bubble in the picture. I tried to imitate the sound of a gas hole by whistling, but it came out sounding like a choo 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 of a street salty flapper, not a majestic and desolate cry of a hole. Well above, in the upper region of canyon, a crested super eagle perched next to its nest on a branch of a quiggy tree. It is regurgitating bits of snake meat and feeding them to its young. It is a shrill and resonant call. A huge eagle comes along the ridge and, flying low, takes sight overhead. It blows its cover too early though, and its prey eludes it. But then it spun and falls, calling the hunter's train, easy picking for the eagle, which is so intent on devouring the deer that you no longer hear its calm, confident call. But just then, the silence is broken by a white-bellied green pigeon cooing, forming a creepy accompaniment to the sound of eagle feeding. In the moonlight, the silver branches of the pines seem covered in tiny blue buds, and on one branch raised a scimitar-braided baybird with a long black eye stripe. On another branch is a pair of birdsong. Oh, and the delicate, perfectly round gray-headed thrush perching on a third branch. Then the sweetest little thing comes leaping over the thicket of grass. It has a copper nest and an olive body. It has a long vise heavy with tomatoes and squeezes into another tub of grass. Its call is choo-chee, choo-chee, toot-toot-toot, choo-chee. What's that? Father asked an old man by his side, wearing a buckskin hat and a black sleeveless sweater. Red-headed thrush, the old man said. At the tip of slowing tree is another little creature, this one white-crested and black-cheeked. "This, it said. "It's a black chickadee," said the old man. "What about the skinny bird in the silver gray calling chitcha, chitcha?" asked father. "Brown-haired warbler." The old man has a prong slung round his neck and a curved knife at his hip. His body glows. The moonlight casts his shadow on the ground. It is the shadow of a massive beast. Father called him Grandpa. Father's grandfather only appears in human form on this page of the album. But he's in another picture too, as a ray of light, a gust of wind, a leaf or a glimmering moon shadow. Father understood birdsong, almost certainly taught to him by his grandfather. The old song father recorded were probably taught him by his grandfather too, along with nature and ritual role. On one page, father adopted his grandfather's tone and write about how our tribe once lived in the north at Halasso, a place shared with population of dwarf spirits. Our people got along really well with the dwarf spirits, so well when we left Halasso, the dwarf spirits gave us 12 sacred shells, which we handed down generation after generation. These shells were preternatural, capital of invisibility, shape-shifting and flying. Every year at our tribe's biggest ritual, we would worship the shells, praying for protection and abundance. A ritual was always a meaning harvest. When I was 12 years old, I made a small hut by our house out of tree grass, rattan and green bamboo, just like the forbidden loom that father drew on one page of his brave album. I placed sacred objects inside a rectangular box, a shrine made of top of fire and arrow bamboo, just like in father's album. Father used to call this box the Holy Vault. I also made a house for hunters I called Lodge of Braves. It was a bamboo platform raised 3 feet above the ground. It had an awning. Beneath it was a pile of firewood. Inside were long racks constructed out of the bone of beasts. On the racks were trophies of the hunt, red scars, bull tusks, and deer antlers. Also hung on the wall was all the equipment a warrior could ever need: a hunting knife, pike, spear, bow and arrow, buckskin cap, tunic, quiver, and pouch. I was only 12 at the time, too young to have my own hunting gear, much less my own trophies. But I could certainly draw and cover this thing on cardboard and cut them out to hang on the wall of the Lodge of Brave. It was like an inventory of antique curiosity or talismans protecting the hunt. What animal did father hunt? In his album, on page after page, he recorded wolves, boars, squirrels, muntjacs, leopards, rattlesnakes, snakes, and bears, especially bears. I sometimes wonder whether father really saw all of these creatures live long hunting land. For as a child, father was thin and weak and easily scared. A man used to cook him praying mantis egg or dry the dry bodies of mantises into powder for father to eat. Here folk in those days apparently believed they could mantis egg cure bedwetting, while the powder was a remedy for cardiac. This man had a gloomy face, like an entire old tree bow tied by tendrils and creepers. He was my grandfather, my father's father. Father rarely called him father. Usually he called him Momo or Mo for short. The year I was 12, I found the key to my father's drawer as well as his cabinet. I found 2 books he made, a scrapbook and an album, and followed him they contained back to his childhood. Father never gave me a storybook to read. While I was growing up, I lived in a world of my own. All I had were his stories. I planned to write stories of my own, partly real, partly make-believe, and put it in a storybook. The first story I ever wrote was Father's. I was step by step, page by page, begin to the Alpine world in Father's album. I intend to keep working day after day, month after month, year after year, until one day I wouldn't have to wonder anymore. Then I would return, exhausted, to the cabin in a clearing in the wood. I was sure there would be a stool waiting there just for me, and a steaming pot of rice porridge on the stove, along with a book of stories of our family, father, grandfather Momo, great-grandfather and me, a story of our tribe, a page turning one by one in the wind. Then the wind would die down. In a moment of perfect tranquility, I hope that, though I might be alone, I will no longer be lonely. Thank you all for listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ying-Tai. I should also just mention that although Ying-Tai's novel, The Bear Whispers to Me, is not scheduled for publication until next month, the publishers have sent a very small consignment of advance copies, so if anybody is interested, you can speak to me after the reading. Now I have the great pleasure of introducing Taiwan's Ambassador to Ireland, Simon S.K. too. Ambassador too has only recently taken up his position here in Ireland, but has held important diplomatic positions in New Zealand, South Africa and at home in Taiwan. Having somebody of his esteem travel down from Dublin this afternoon, accompanied by his wife Tracy and the Taipei Representative Office's Deputy Director, Shirley Lin, is a genuine honour for the Lennox Robinson Literary Festival, and we are very pleased to welcome them all to Douglas. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ambassador Simon too.
Good evening, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm doubly honored to be here in Douglas this evening. It is an honor, of course, to be in the birthplace of the great poet and dramatist Lennox Robinson, as we celebrate his life and achievements. I would like to thank the festival committee, and in particular, Mr. Billy O'Connor, for inviting me to be a part of this wonderful occasion. I would also like to take a moment to thank the people of Douglas for the incredible hospitality they have shown me. I am especially privileged to have been asked to present this award to Ying-Tai Chang, a native of my own country, as well as being Distinguished Professor in the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences at National Taiwan University of Science and Technology. Ying-Tai Chang is a renowned author in her own right. Professor Chang's long interest in Lennox Robinson makes this occasion particularly special and an opportunity to reflect on the unexpected cultural links between our two nations. Like many writers of his era, Lennox Robinson was influenced by William Butler Yeats. It is little known that Yeats had dreamed of visiting Taiwan in his later life. while Taiwan was under Japanese occupation. He was offered a position in the Imperial University in Taipei, yet was enthralled by the prospect of spending 2 years in Taiwan and was tempted to accept the offer, but for family reasons, he could not. We will never know how differently literature might have developed if the East and West, Ireland and Taiwan, had come together in the writings of W.B. Yeats. Today, however, greater numbers of Irish people make that journey to Taiwan every year. The visa waiver between Ireland and Taiwan has made it easier than ever before to travel between our two countries. The working holiday visa allows Irish young people to travel and work in Taiwan for up to a year, broadening their cultural horizon in a way that was only dreamed of by previous generations. Taiwan has a thriving artists and literary scene. Taipei's two artist villages are growing in reputation and both offer an outstanding artist in residence fellowships to international competitors. As an innovative and world leader in the field of arts and crafts, Taiwan has earned particular admiration for its ceramic art. A 3-month ceramics residency is available to artists for around the world. Life in Taiwan also affords travelers a chance to immerse themselves in one of the world's most important languages. For several years, Irish citizens has availed of the Huayu scholarship offered to international students who wish to study Mandarin in Taiwan. This year, my government is also making funding available to Irish students and academics for full-time study and research through the Taiwan Scholarship and Taiwan Fellowship. I hope these exchanges will continue to build new and exciting cultural links of the kind we see here at the Lennox Robinson Festival. It is a heartening sign for the future that a scholar from Taiwan not only teaches her students about Lennox Robinson, but is now being honored in Robinson's hometown of Douglas. I believe that this is a proof of the power of great literature to overcome barriers of time, place, and nationality. I congratulate Professor Ying-Tai on her fine achievement. It is with great pleasure that I present to her the 2015 Lennox Robinson Awards for distinguished contribution to the arts. I thank you.
was great. Ladies and gentlemen, honoured guests, I know some of you have had to travel to be here, and I want to thank you all for your time and attention this evening. The Lennox Robinson Festival can only blossom with the support of an interested audience, and your presence here is genuinely appreciated. As you all know, everyone involved in this festival is doing so on an entirely voluntary basis. And on behalf of the festival committee, Pete Duffy, Ronnie McGinn, Billy McCarthy and myself, I have to extend my gratitude to all who gave so freely of their time and talents to perform over the weekend, and to all the venues for accommodating us. I need to thank Tim McCoy for filming this for us tonight, and to Liam McCarthy, who filmed so much of the festival and whose wonderful documentary film, Douglas, A Village Wrapped in Cloth, got the festival off to such a great start. I also can't forget Irene and Deanne, who I'm after losing my place, who did incredible work as regards building a website, designing posters, brochures, certificates, and even the booklets that some of you are holding in your hands. We've also had amazing media coverage, especially from Des Breen and Rory Noonan in the Echo, which really helped to raise the profile of the festival. I have to offer my most sincere thanks also to Reverend Adrian Wilkinson and the Church of Ireland community for opening your doors to us, and for the support and encouragement you've given us in the planning of this festival. And again, I just want to express my heartfelt thanks to Ambassador Tu, to the Taiwanese government for funding Ying-Tai's attendance at this festival, and most of all to Ying-Tai Chang for travelling such a long way to be here with us, and for brightening up our closing event with such a beautiful reading. And at that, I'll officially close the 2015 Lennox Robinson Literary Festival, and I hope to see you all again next year. Thank you and good night.